Welcome to Good Game. I'm Hex.
And I'm Dave Callan, filling in for Bajo, who's off frolicking in the land of gaming goodness, E3.
That's right. Well, thanks so much for joining us on the show.
My pleasure, Hex.
Coming up, we're going to try and survive some open-world horror with our first look at the forest.
And we embark on a journey to win back love in Always Sometimes Monsters.
Full motion video. Remember that, Dave?
Unfortunately, I do.
Well, Goose takes a look back at the dreadfully daggy but oh so wonderful history of full motion video in games.
Which leads us nicely into Tesla Effect, a Tex Murphy Adventure.
Wow, hello, stranger.
This totally feels like a dream.
A huge show, but before all that, can you name the game for this week? The Forest is one of the latest survival horror games to be unleashed for early access on PC. Dave, I hope you brought your brown pants.
Brown pants engaged. Like all good stories, The Forest begins with a plane crash on a remote island inhabited by cannibalistic tribespeople. Sitting next to who we can only assume is your son, you plummet out of the sky in what is probably the coolest video game plane crash to date.
Yeah, it's intense, isn't it? No flashes to wide or cheeky cuts. You go down with the plane all the way. As you begin to regain consciousness, you see a tribesman collect your young companion and disappear before you can fully recover. Once you're on your feet, it's time to gather up supplies and set out to find your child. I mean, we assume it's your child. That's not entirely clear at this point.
Something they do make clear is that this game is in what's called early alpha, which is a polite way of saying, hey, we'd really like some keen beans to bug test this game and pay for the privilege because it's not quite finished yet.
Yeah, and one of the side effects of its unfinished state is that not all of the island is open for exploration yet. This means that any direction you choose to walk will see you hitting the coast pretty quickly.
Well, yeah, it might be quick if you manage to evade the patrolling cannibals. It's quite intimidating watching these search parties scour the island for traces of your presence.
Yeah, despite its bugginess, the AI is shaping up to be really cool. Enemies will react to anything abnormal, like trees you've cut down, and there's certainly an air of mystery around them and their ceremonial culture. They seem to have a class system, and they're so unpredictable. I mean, they might be curious one time and then really aggressive the next. I mean, it certainly keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, and these guys are really agile. Dashing about, climbing trees and leaping towards you, all with really slick animations. They're scary buggers, especially because they're normally in groups. I tried to run away usually, but most of the time you'll be forced to fight. It is good combat though.
Yeah, the fighting's got a really solid feel to it. Hits are heavy and swings and blocks are responsive. But I just think the cannibals can take way too much of a beating. I mean, it's like 15 axe chops to the face to finish them off. I think they need to work something out there.
I think maybe even 14 would be too many.
A good idea would be maybe starting off with a blunt weapon so that there's a better sense of progression as you build items that are more effective in combat. I mean, at the moment it feels like I'm whacking them with a pool noodle.
Weapons progression would make sense because a big part of this game is crafting.
Yeah, I mean, pool noodle, then like a club or something, then an axe.
There is a great sense of satisfaction in building a base. I managed to build a nice little shelter and a solid fire, which I defended with the strength and determination of Thor. Not a bad effort if I do say so myself.
Yeah, it's a good feeling. I mean, after a few lives, you'll throw caution to the wind, madly collecting whatever you can and dashing about trying to uncover the secrets of the island's cavernous core. But as soon as you have a little foothold and start to feel like you're doing well, the stakes are dramatically raised. I mean, it may not be the wisest choice, but I like to build on the coast just so I can, really soak in those views.
Yes, if it weren't for those pesky, yet admittedly well-oiled cannibals, this would be a wonderful place to visit. There's also some nice dynamic lighting and weather effects which make for some gorgeous sunsets. Also, there's heaps of wildlife. Rabbits, goannas, birds chirping about. It almost feels like you're in a Disney film. That is, until you realize you're actually in an Eli Roth-esque horror film. Disney. Eli Roth. Disney. Eli Roth. Disney. Eli Roth.
The inventory system is really cool and not as sluggishly realistic as some other survival games, which I think works for this one. You lay all your items out on a tarp to check them and assess their use, as well as crafting new items. Take the ridiculously fun but arguably overpowered Molotov cocktail, for example. I mean, this all works well and seems pretty logical at this point, so I'm looking forward to seeing them take that idea a little bit further.
Yeah, it can feel like a bit of a hoardathon. Collecting rocks and leaves and logs and body parts. You know, the standard survival paraphernalia. I do like that there's aloe vera, presumably to help soothe sunburn. If those cannibals are coming from me, I don't want to give them the satisfaction of me already being slightly pre-cooked. I want them to work for this.
Did you also notice there's bottles of alcohol everywhere? I mean, these cannibals must have been having some serious raging parties.
I say, this cannibal party's going off!
Yeah, man, you want some brains?
Woohoo!
There are a lot of things I'd like to see before the forest hits full release, but I'd have to say the main one would be multiplayer. Once the map is a bit bigger, it would be cool to build a fortified, self-sustaining town with some friends and slowly drive the cannibals off the island.
I'd like to have Liam Neeson do some voice acting for the protagonist. This game has Liam Neeson written all over it. Plane crash, a la The Grey. Stolen child, a la Taken. Lots of lists for crafting, a la Schindler's List.
Well, I think that last one's a little bit of a stretch, but look, there's a lot of things that are wrong with the forest.
A la The Phantom Menace.
Yes, but unlike that prequel, I think this actually has a lot of promise. With all of these elements, this could become the benchmark for survival games in the future. I'm really looking forward to playing more of this once the full game is released.
Yeah, me too. But for now, here's Goose with the news.
Schindler's List?
Thanks, guys. This year's E3 has come and gone, leaving a slew of games and announcements in its wake. Once again, it was Microsoft who kicked things off. Apparently, having learned from last year's mistakes, the company focused entirely on games, giving fans updates on expected titles, as well as a ton of live demos and a few surprise reveals to boot.
Watch out, watch out, watch out.
Holy crap.
There they are.
There's loads of them.
Sony was up next, flexing their exclusives muscles across the board. Most notably, they revealed From Software's new title, Bloodborne. Sony also gave a generous amount of time to independent developers, with Sean Murray, founder of Hello Games, taking the stage to show off his upcoming sci-fi game No Man's Sky. As for Nintendo, once again, it chose to avoid a flashy press conference and instead focused on a direct video presentation.
Welcome to E3 Nintendo fans.
The pre-recorded show was packed full of familiar IPs as well as Ninty's good-natured humor.
We have Nintendo's biggest stars backstage, ready to make some big announcements.
Oh, great! Another Mario game!
Don't love your tone, but actually no new Mario game today.
What? I'm getting bombed? Bring my cart around! I'm out of here!
Hey, looks like I'm the new face of Nintendo. Hey, they promised me you would be here!
And in some non-E3 news, Naughty Dog co-founder Jason Rubin has joined Oculus as head of the VR company's worldwide studios. The former game programmer and director is best known for his work on Crash Bandicoot and Jak and Daxter. Oculus's worldwide studios initiative plans to deliver first-party content for the VR device. And that's all the news for this week.
Always Sometimes Monsters is the first game from developer Vagabond Dog, but comes to us by way of Devolver Digital, the publisher behind such indie success stories as Luftrausers and Hotline Miami. In Always Sometimes Monsters, you play a writer who's down on his luck. His manuscript is not getting published. He's behind in his rent, and his girlfriend left him.
Or it could be her girlfriend who's left, or boyfriend, or any kind of friend. And this is because the way the character selection is set up is it's kind of sneakily hidden in there.
Yeah, you don't actually realize you're selecting the character that you're going to be for the rest of the game, do you?
No, and playing as a particular race, gender, or sexual orientation can change the way other characters react to you within the story. I ended up with this scruffy guy who I inadvertently named Poop because I didn't realize I was also selecting a name for the character when I was asked to sign a card.
Poop. Stay classy. At the beginning of the game, everything seems to be going very well for our hero, in some cases, Poop. But fast forward a year and he's desperate. His landlord has kicked him out of his apartment and he's forced to live on the streets and scrounge up whatever work he can do to make ends meet.
Yes, and to make matters worse, the love of his life is going to marry someone else in 30 days' time. So you have exactly that long to try and scrape together enough money to get your life back on track and make it across the country to try and win her back.
The game immediately throws you into a sense of desperation to really see how far you're willing to go in an effort to make a buck. And if people are nice to you, it becomes harder to want to treat them with respect in return.
I always take the goody two-shoes route in games, trying to play the righteous hero. I always have, and I always will. I mean, that's just me. So personally, I set about trying to make an honest dollar in whatever way I could.
Yeah, my intentions were pretty good too. I even shared a precious sandwich with a crazy homeless guy. That's how good of a guy I am.
Yeah, but it's amazing how quickly my shiny moral code just fell apart. In a flashback to the early stages of my career, the publishing deal I was offered meant accepting it on my own and cutting out the writing partner I'd worked on the book with. But I took it anyway, writing partner be damned, because one of us may as well do well out of it, right? I mean, no use both of us being penniless.
Whatever helps you get to sleep at night, Hex. I believe you threw him under the bus. I also like how if you call your friend to at least try and discuss it first, you basically get a message saying he can't afford the line rental. So you know he's in a crappy place financially too, and you're aware of how much of a dick you're being by taking the deal for yourself.
Yeah, the game does that regularly, doesn't it? It forces you to face up to the reality of your own decisions, particularly when you're trying to justify a grey area to yourself. I mean, when does self-preservation become straight up greed?
You manage to get work as a coat check in a nightclub, earning good tips if you get people their coats to them quickly. But even just focusing on that task means subjecting people to some pretty terrible situations. Why did I give that guy his coat? I'm a scumbag.
Yeah, I even agreed to buy some chick pills, and the shady dealer offered me a cheaper option that was eco-friendly. I told myself, well, if it's better for the environment and I can pocket a few bucks on the side, plus I am already doing her a favor. But deep down, I knew it was the shady thing to do, and later on when I bumped into her, I felt awful.
What happened to being the righteous hero?
I don't know, suddenly I'm a drug pusher. Not even a drug pusher, but a dodgy drug pusher that sells bad pills to girls.
Yeah, you make the excuse that you're desperate. But since most of the time people treat you pretty badly, potentially worse depending on the avatar you choose, you find yourself justifying your bad behavior because it's a dog-eat-dog world. It's amazing how your moral code will start to erode with each and every decision.
Yeah, and I guess you start to realize, you know, night after night sleeping on the street, that things just aren't going to get any easier for you. And the stakes become higher with each day counting down. I really liked all the detail in this game. Each building has been so thoughtfully created. There are different things going on in each of them. Stuff to do, people to talk to, even collectibles to find.
I like the little in-game arcade games at the developer's office. You can even track the devs down at the local coffee shop, making hilarious self-referential jokes about game design.
Overall, I thought this was really unique. I love games that deal with consequence of decision and moral compass, so this was right up my alley. Sometimes I did find the dialogue and themes were occasionally adult just for the sake of it, and it came across as a little crass, but that was pretty rare.
I kind of want to go back to the start of the game and pick a different avatar, and the one I feel will garner the most discrimination, just to see how that affects the situations in the game and my own reactions to them. And it's great when a game does that, making you want to play out different scenarios.
Yeah, I agree, although really I'm just a bit ashamed of myself and I want to go back and start again just so I can try and be a better person.
But is there such a thing as a better person? Or are there sometimes always monsters?
No, I can go back and start again and I can be better. People can be good and honest and be rewarded for their honesty. And in the end, the good guys will win and there'll be rainbows and confetti.
Oh, yeah, right. Good guys winning. We live in a Game of Thrones world now. No one is safe.
Oh, don't remind me. This is a difficult game to talk about because so much of it is about the narrative and character interaction, and we don't want to spoil it. But I was really impressed with how Monsters had me justifying and questioning absolutely everything. I'm giving it 8.
I really enjoyed it as well and was surprised by it. On the surface, it doesn't look like the kind of game that will have you questioning the very essence of who you are. But it kind of goes there. And it's sort of game that you're really desperate for other people to play just to see how their choices and actions play out differently than your own. I'm giving it 8.5.
And now, Goose.
The year is 1993. Jurassic Park is stomping through the box office and Whitney Houston is ruling the charts. But something is about to drastically change in video games, or with the help of a certain technology, the CD-ROM. The hundreds of megabytes available on a CD was a luxurious update for the games industry. And in taking advantage of all this space, the devs of the 90s set their sights on 3 magical letters: FMV, full motion video. Put simply, full motion video relied on using pre-rendered video files to represent in-game characters and cutscenes. As well as reducing time and money spent on primitive 3D model design and animation, it also had the benefit of capturing real-life performances, complete with lip-syncing, smooth animation, and actual emotions, something that up until then was near impossible with simple vector graphics and text. At the time, FMV felt like the logical way forward for gaming, a bridge between the world of cinema and video games, a way of finally inserting gaming into the realm of mature entertainment and providing it with the legitimacy that it so craved.
And action!
One of the earliest titles to take advantage of this tech was the spooky mystery game The Seventh Guest.
I guess our host wants us to fend for ourselves.
It sold over 2 million copies and actually caused a spike in CD-ROM drive sales. Bill Gates even called it the new standard in interactive entertainment, a pretty big call for the time. It quickly became apparent that the slow, staged nature of full-motion video was perfectly suited to the pacing of point-and-click adventure games. Return to Zork brought the definitive text adventure series up to date, while other games attempted more ambitious gameplay with the technology.
Welcome to the sewers, punk.
Sewer Shark was an action-packed, futuristic on-rails shooter that set the bar low for storytelling.
Something down there sucked their brains out.
Alas, it only took one game featuring mature content to spark a fresh round of censorship hysteria. I speak, of course, of that infamous FMV game, Night Trap. While much of the debate surrounding the game may have been misguided, the game itself didn't do any favours for the industry, opening the gates for future B-grade, sexually suggestive titles such as Voyeur and Snowjob.
And cut!
However, determined developers maintained their optimism for this fancy new piece of tech, and they continued to produce a large catalogue of interesting and entertaining interactive stories.
And action!
King's Quest creator Roberta Williams explored sinister territory in Phantasmagoria, a game she considered the crowning achievement of her career. Rebel Assault 2 hit a market starved for new Star Wars content. The on-rails shooting action of the game was mediocre, but that didn't matter because the FMV sprites and cutscenes were the closest we'd been to the Star Wars universe since the films.
These particular craft have a capability previously unheard of.
Of course, Mark Hamill, the man who played Luke Skywalker, also became the hero of another sci-fi tale in Wing Commander 3. A theatre actor by trade, Hamill embraced the staged nature of cutscene acting. It had the biggest development budget of its time and was a huge success. But it wasn't just character actors who found new career opportunities starring in FMV games. Bigger stars like Dennis Hopper, Tim Curry, John Hurt and Christopher Walken all dabbled in this newfangled territory of video game performance.
How's the coffee, Sarge? Nice and hot.
One thing FMV games did very well was provide a winning combination of charm and cheese, often resulting in cult followings.
My name's Tex Murphy. I'm a private detective. Just like me, the Ritz used to be something. Now it's just another grimy building in a rundown part of town.
No!
and I'm almost out of bourbon.
Launched in 1994, Under a Killing Moon reintroduced Tex Murphy. Part Rick Deckard, part Inspector Clouseau, Murphy trod the mutant-infested streets of a futuristic America. Through the game's combination of rewarding detective work and slapstick humour, Tex quickly became one of the most endearing heroes of the FMV era.
And cut!
But FMV was never solely reserved for one genre of video games. The military RTS series Command & Conquer cleverly used FMV to inject personality and satire to the many faceless units that you took control over. The spin-off Red Alert series dispensed with the subtlety of satire, instead delving into full parody. Unfortunately, the love fest with FMVs didn't last long. By the late 90s, troublesome multi-disc installs, pixelated VGA graphics, and cumbersome gameplay had taken their toll.
And action!
Even with the release of some of the strongest examples of the genre, such as Privateer 2 and the X-Files game, FMV was to be speedily overtaken by advanced computer graphics that were becoming progressively easier to create and far more pleasing to watch. Meanwhile, gameplay was also evolving into a much faster Twitch-paced medium, with no place for the slow, stilted TV-like drama. To be brutally honest, the novelty had worn off. The spell was broken. FMV was neither fish nor fowl, though it certainly had plenty of ham and cheese. No matter how good that CG backdrop was, it never ever matched up with the humans on top of it. Real drama was rare, only really comedy and farce prevailed.
And cut!
Nowadays, all gamers see in FMVs are fake sets populated by second-tier actors. The more recent Red Alert 3 attempted to embrace this, but only really came off as a last hurrah.
I humbly accept this honor and promise to make you proud.
But before we dismiss FMVs entirely...
And action!
Let me offer you this. Maybe they were ahead of their time. Recently, the gaming world has been engrossed in capturing realism, real characters, settings and drama to engage in more creative storytelling, even going as far as enticing recognisable Hollywood A-list talent into the fold.
And that's where I come in.
But of course, isn't that what FMV was going for almost 20 years ago? We may never cross the uncanny valley completely, but the desire to get real actors and real performances isn't going to go away. Mocap and facial tracking now provide us with those same performances from the days of FMV, but with a digital veneer that creates a clearer aesthetic for gamers to wrap their heads around.
And cut!
Sure, full-motion video games are a daggy reminder of our video game past, but just like in outdated fashion, there's always room for a welcome comeback.
Thank you, Goose, for that very informative look back at full-motion video. The question is, should FMVs have stayed in the 90s, like my hairstyle, or has it made a welcome return with Tesla effect at Tex Murphy Adventure?
There was a time when I would have never agreed to do something this despicable. I can't explain why I do this.
It's yet another dormant franchise making a return thanks to crowdfunding. You know, that process by which someone can't get a major investor and so they go, hey everyone, give me your lunch money. The resulting game is part Blade Runner and part Maltese Falcon. You could even go as far as to call it neo-noir.
The game is supposed to be set 7 years after the 1998 game Overseer, but of course, in reality, 15 years have passed. The actors all look a little bit older than they should.
I am 39-ish.
Tex is on the hunt for a Tesla cache of mysterious technology and several missing persons.
You come back here!
But this time, poor Tex has amnesia and must piece together what happened to his head and solve a greater conspiracy.
What the hell is that?
Looks like you got injected with something. Maybe that's what's messing with your head.
Ah, good old amnesia. Why should starting a story with memory loss be restricted to Japanese RPGs? Every nationality should get to share in that sweet MacGuffin. The game revolves around Tex wandering around a dystopian future San Francisco, relentlessly staring at walls, picking up things to combine with other things to use on yet more things.
Ding, 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 ding! We have a winner!
And asking millions of questions to people in B-grade SFX horror makeup.
I chose this path.
I think the full motion sequences range from okay to not so okay.
Let me stop you there, Hex. I think you mean they go from being quite bad to actually very bad.
I think you're being a little bit harsh. I mean, they're celebrating the cheesiness of full motion video, and I think fans would appreciate that.
Make it quick, Murphy. I got about 1 million things to do. And wasting time on you ain't one of them.
Well, I think the fans will really appreciate those old flashback scenes which are taken from the original games because they are so spectacularly bad, they're actually quite good.
How do you get lost before you eat that chocolate-colored hat of yours?
The role of women in the game is also pretty retro.
I recommend 2 aspirin and lots of bed rest.
All the characters who move the story forward and are in authority are men, while the women just exist to be rescued or flirted with.
Call me Tex.
No, thank you.
If the developers are trying to deliberately recreate the sexism of the era, then awesome work, good job. If not, it's a bit of a worry.
Yeah, I don't know that Tesla Effect would score very high in the Bechdel test.
Sorry, have we met?
Although, Tex's character did grow on me over the course of the game, despite the fact that he wanders around most of it in a fedora making dad jokes.
Oh, that's a bit unfair.
Oh, I think it's fair.
No, I meant it was mean to dads.
In your mojo. What a shagadelic name, baby, yeah!
This is, at its heart, a point-and-click adventure.
Okay, I don't want any trouble.
You'll alternate between these FMV Q&A sessions.
Glad to see you're still alive.
Yeah, I'm sure you are, since I haven't paid my first bill.
And 3D bits where objects are found, picked up, or interacted with to solve a variety of puzzles.
Now that I have a ladder, I can get into the second floor of the electronics shop.
Yeah, I found the puzzles a real mixed bag. Some are painfully obvious, but others require the sort of jump of logic no reasonable human would ever make.
Wow, nothing is so simple or wonderfully effective as blunt force trauma.
While I know the idea was to make another one of these games, they could have adapted it better to the new gaming landscape.
So, I guess you do need some catching up then.
Yeah, Tex's detective work feels frustratingly archaic when you compare it to more recent games like L.A. Noire or Batman Arkham Origins.
The victim was killed by some kind of explosion.
To do something as simple as unlock a door, you should not have to go into the menu, select the key, then click on a hand icon, then exit the menu.
Why would Margaret Leonard leave me a key?
Yeah, what's wrong with just pushing the action button? I don't think anybody would have complained. Nobody would have said, hey, where's all the convoluted faffing about through menus that we knew and loved so much about the old series?
Well, even though I do feel like this was a bit of an outdated misfire, I'm wary of scoring it too low, because I think crowdfunding forgotten franchises is a good thing, and why shouldn't fans get a game that they willingly paid for? I'm giving it 6.5.
Well, look, I thought there was a lot of charisma and a lot of fun in the old titles, and it's just missing here, so I'm going to give it 5.
It's a proven fact.
So, did you guess the game for this week? It was the original Tetris created by Alexei Pajitnov in June 1984 for a Soviet terminal computer called the Electronica 60. The game was later ported to PC, and of course it made its way to the corrupt and decadent West, where we're still enjoying it today. And it's our Name the Game this week because we're celebrating Tetris's 30th birthday. Happy birthday, Little Blocks.
Next week in the show, Barger will be back with a special episode with all the news, games, and awkward press conference moments from this year's E3.
Blanca always wins.
And over on Good Game Spawn Point, the show for younger gamers on ABC3, Hex, Darren, and Goose will be checking out Worms Battlegrounds.
Well, Dave, thank you so much for joining us on the show. It's been a pleasure as always.
Thank you so much for having me. And before I do go, I do have something to reveal to you and to the Good Game viewers. It's my new virtual reality game.
Awesome. I can't wait to see it. Hex out.
Dave out.
It's this way?
Yep.
Okay, I'm a bit nervous.
You know, ever since I debuted my stunning dance moves on Good Game over 2 years ago, demand has risen for a Dave Callan dance title. Well, today, thanks to my friends at Virtual Thrift, we have Just Dave Central Dance VR.
Virtual Thrift is scientifically proven to be the coolest and most powerful virtual reality device in the entire Milky Way. With it, you can become the beard by virtually slipping into the body of Dave, the hottest dance sensation in years. Increase physical appeal in the eyes of prospective mates with Dave's own rigorous virtual fitness training regime. Get fit, get ripped, get Just Dave on Virtual Thrift.